And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachula. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California. Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking, throws up to the head, intercepted at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, he's good, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobbed one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole.
Here's the snap. Pressure coming from the outside. Brady throws it back. Caught ball first out of the 50. Outside the numbers 40 to the 30-yard line. To the 25. It's Perriman. Rashad Perriman. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Bucs win in overtime.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Live on YouTube today following Week 7's matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. 21-3, your final scores. The Bucs fall to 3-4. I really don't have a lot of good things to say about that performance. I don't. Normally we try to open up the show. We're in a great mood today. We are live from Berry House Beer Company in Ybor City. Beautiful Ybor City. It has been an awesome day, aside from the game. And kind of like the watch party last year. So we are now 0-2 on watch parties, which means if we go November 27th, Bucs versus Cleveland, and they find a way to lose to the Browns and they're 0-3, I think that may be the end of the Cannon Fire watch party. But Evan, how are you doing after that one?
Boy, thank God the Phillies are one win away from the World Series, huh? This team sucks right now.
Yeah, this team is there's not a lot of good things you can say.
Yeah, it's thank God you guys had a great day at Berry House, because that makes it much better. If you were just sitting there watching this at home, I mean, it's probably a miserable experience. But being at Berry House, a great atmosphere like that, I'm sure it was a fantastic day. But you say about the watch party last year, at least they scored a touchdown last year. So at least there was something to hang your hat on there. Here there was nothing. This is the worst loss that probably one of the worst losses that I can remember ever watching the Bucs, because when you talk about, yes, there've been worse like statistical losses, sure. But I think, in terms of the talent that's on the team, the opponent you were facing, and the situation you had, this is easily, to me, the worst loss that I think I've seen covering this team, watching this team. That's bad. It's bad right now, and they are a bad football team right now, which somehow are still in first place in the NFC South.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC in general in shambles. The NFC South and not that much better of shape. The Saints lost on Thursday Night Football to Arizona, and then the Falcons lost to Cincinnati today as well. The Panthers getting their second win of the season. But, yeah, I mean, you look at the situation the Bucs were in coming into this. You had the most embarrassing win you've ever had the embarrassing loss you've ever had last week. You know, you kind of expected to bounce back and have that be the outlier on the season because every year since Brady's been here, there's usually one loss a year to a bad team that you can chalk up as, hey, maybe they just weren't ready to play. And today, the Bucs had every chance on the planet to just silence everyone with, a glass half empty outlook on what a 3-3 record could be. But when you drop back-to-back games to one-win teams, it's hard to look at what went wrong. I mean, for Tampa Bay starting things off today, the offense was just non-existent yet again. Mike Evans had the touchdown, and he dropped it on the opening drive of the game. That would have been the first quarter points for Tampa Bay in 7 football games. Now 8 games since the Buccaneers have put any points at all on the scoreboard in the first quarter. I mean, what the hell? James, by the way, joining us for the show today live from Berry House, our good buddy James Hill, a.k.a. Mr. Bucs Nation. James, you were reacting live to the game today. What did you think of what happened to Tampa Bay out there?
Well, I think right now, the way you look at it, this team has an astronomical number of questions, right? An astronomical number. I can't necessarily hear Evan's points on it just due to, the old technical difficulties snafu, but I imagine it's a similar thoughts here. This team, so far, 7 weeks through the season, is playing like a 6 to 7 win football team. That's according to Evan's face, it looks like that might be generous, right? I think that this team has to address everything at this point, top to bottom. I mean, there's a lot of blame that, needs to be thrown around. I know people want to throw a lot of frustration at one group or the other. Oh, it's Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles and it's just them, or oh, it's the players and it's just them. No, folks, it's everything at this point. Top to bottom, you've got to question the coaching staff. You've got to question the players. Just everything, play calling, coaching staff, execution of play calling, all these different types of things. And, they deserve to be questioned on that because so far they have shown up with nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing to showcase that this team is what they have been the past couple of seasons. Have they lost some players? Sure. They've also added some players, talented players at that, and they still have a very, very talented roster. A roster that is too talented to lose to, again, Rhett, you said it, 2 one-win teams back-to-back, both of which were not playing with their original starting quarterbacks throughout the entirety of the game. The Carolina Panthers, you look at this team, they had their third-string quarterback. They had an interim head coach. Their original head coach was fired. They traded away their best offensive player on their team in running back Christian McCaffrey and their wide receiver 2 to the Arizona Cardinals. And this was still a team the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could not defeat. And to be fair, yes, the Panthers, they do have a talented defense with some good young pieces. But 3 points. Even if you want to say, oh, well, Mike Evans, he would have scored that touchdown. Okay, that's 10 points. This offense needs to score more than 10 points, point blank, simple as that. And the defense giving up over 100 rushing yards, big running plays time and time again to the Panthers' second and third string running backs. All of that is just completely inexcusable. And I think it's a perfect summary. And really, this is the rock bottom type of game for the Bucs so far, where it has just been, I guess the best word to describe it is spiraling, and now it's hit the bottom. This is about as low as this team has gotten so far this season. This is the lowest the Bucs have been in the Tom Brady era. This is the first time since Week 1, 2020, that Brady has been in a Bucs uniform with a negative record. And to think that we're headed into Week 8 on a short week going up against Lamar Jackson, a former league MVP, and the Baltimore Ravens, it feels like, honestly, this is just a ridiculous uphill battle the Bucs are going to be up against this week. And when you look at the offense and what they've brought to the table so far, first 7 weeks of the season, how do you not think to bring into question Byron Leftwich in particular as the offensive coordinator? I know we've done a lot of Brady defending on this show,
we're probably going to do some more of it headed into next week, because it was hard to say that it was all on him when guys like Mike Evans are dropping touchdown passes, and Chris Godwin had a couple of drops today as well. Execution or the errors are there, but Evan, when you look at this team from top to bottom, how can you look at the offensive coordinator and say, okay, this is acceptable after 7 weeks of football?
Well, you can't. 21 points in 2 games against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. That's not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done at all. And the offenses looked like this kind of throughout the season, but they had a lot of injuries at points, and they weren't playing with a full lineup. Now they are, and there's no excuse. Now, will Byron Leftwich be fired tomorrow? I don't think so. It's a short week. It's tough to fire a coach on a short week like that, and it'd be too much. But it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't finish the season, because there has to be some sort of consequences for this. If you want to uphold a standard that you have, there has to be consequences for this level of play. And we know the talent's there. Like, the talent isn't the issue. We know it's there. Like, we've seen it. Mike Evans doesn't just all of a sudden suck at football. Tristan Wirfs doesn't just suck at football. Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, Tom Brady, these guys, they don't suck at football. So what's the denominator here? It's coaching right now. And yes, it's also execution. Byron Leftwich ain't out there dropping the ball, for a 75-yard touchdown that's missed. That's not on Leftwich. But it's about getting the guys ready to play. You had a 2nd and 1 that you didn't convert into anything, because you went for it on 3rd and 1, didn't get it. We all knew what that was going to be, because they line up with 0 wide receivers and I guess they think they're like this juggernaut powerhouse running team. And then they run a toss play on 4th and 1. And they don't get it. Like, what do you expect? It's the same thing over and over again. And the definition of insanity is attempting to do the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And right now, this Bucs offense is lost, and Byron Leftwich should absolutely 100% be on the hot seat. There's no excuse for it right now.
So, this sounds like the $1 million question. Everyone's going to have the same question heading into this week, but how do they turn it around? What has to happen? Because like you said, the talent is there. This Bucs team can win with the roster of players that they've had. We've seen this offense with both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the field average 30 points a game. And yeah, we've talked about navigating, the absence of an Antonio Brown, the absence of some of those other wide receiver 3s and 4s. Rob Gronkowski, you obviously feel his absence in the red zone, but unfortunately those guys aren't going to be walking through the door tomorrow. Like, you're not going to get Antonio Brown. I don't think you're going to get Rob Gronkowski back. At this rate, if this team is struggling to make the playoffs, I know the NFC is in shambles, but at a 3-4 record, you think Gronk wants to come back to this? Are you kidding me? Like, they're going to lure him out of retirement to come play for a team that's still facing an uphill battle to make the playoffs? I don't like it one bit, and someone certainly needs to be held accountable. But James, what do you think about the offense going forward? How can they potentially try and fix this thing?
I've heard, we've been hearing this for weeks and weeks and weeks now, right? Where, hey, they don't have Gronk, hey, they don't have AB. Guess what, folks? There's offenses out there that are doing a lot more with a lot less than what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have right now. Look at the Detroit Lions. That is a fantastic example. They, at one point this season, had the top offense. They have, Jared Goff is their quarterback, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. Those are some good players that I mentioned, but there are offenses out there that are doing a lot more with a lot less. So at this point, that's, it's an excuse that's over. It's overdone. There's no AB. Oh, man, there's no Gronk. Yes, do they miss those guys? Of course. But even if those guys aren't there, you shouldn't need those guys to have a top offense at this point, right? You have enough talent there to where you can at least do more than what we've been seeing so far. And there's just examples of teams doing more with much less talented players and more creativity with what they're able to do in their offenses. So, the idea of, well, man, they're just doing bad because, they miss Gronk and they miss Antonio Brown. Of course they do. Any team would miss those guys, but what do good teams do? What do good coaching staffs do? They adjust and they make do with what they have, and they find creative ways to get playmakers the football. And right now, we're just not seeing that from the Buccaneers, point blank, simple as that. So I think that's pretty much run its course at this point. And as I said at the top of this stream, top to bottom, things definitely need to be questioned with the amount of talent that this coaching staff has at their disposal, especially on the offensive coaching staff, they've got to have a lot of questions thrown their way, and I feel like understandably so.
Yeah, and it's you. I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's everything. It's not just one thing. It's the players. It's the coaches. But like like I talked about, when you have a talented offense like this, like, why has it changed so much? Well, you got to look at the big thing. Bruce Arians not being there anymore, and Byron Leftwich basically having the full control of the offense. Now, I know there's a lot of people in the chat saying, "Oh, is Brady going to retire?" Look, that's not going to happen. And you're not going to be seeing Kyle Trask or Blaine Gabbert or anything like that, because while Tom Brady is to blame for some of this, don't get me wrong, Tom Brady is to blame for some of this. He has to be. He's the quarterback. He's not. He's like probably not even a top 3 or 4 problem on the offense. Like, there is a lot of other problems besides quarterback on this offense right now. And I mean, why shuffle the left guards in this game? Luke Gedeke goes out there. Luke Gedeke goes out there and gets bullied like he has been for the whole season. Really, you bring Nick Leverett in, then you put Luke Gedeke back in, then you bring Nick Leverett back. It doesn't make any sense, and you want to talk about continuity on the offensive line? That's terrible.
Yeah, no, I think the Bucs were looking for a short-term solution there, and that wasn't the way to do it. It was kind of an odd move to see Leverett come into the game. I mean, I can't say it was shocking for a lot of people who have seen how bad Luke Gedeke is, but what was even more shocking was to see Gedeke back in the game later on. And we talked with Sean King about how when you're using depth pieces, when you're using second and third string guys, Gedeke's a starter, but he's a rookie, they're going to get exposed in longevity. And it's almost like Leverett didn't even have the chance to go out there and try and potentially make a difference before they toss Gedeke back in the game. So I'm not sure what the mindset was behind that. Let's talk about the offensive line. I mean, even though they were moving some guys around, what did you make of their performance today? Tom Brady, we'll talk about his day really quickly because it put some pressure on the offensive line. Anytime your quarterback drops back to pass 49 times. So 32 for 49, 290 yards. And honestly, even watching the game, it's hard to feel like they had 290 yards of passing offense, but somehow they did. What did you make of the offensive line today? Brian Burns registered a sack, but aside from that, it didn't feel like Brady was feeling the heat quite as much as he was last week in Pittsburgh, but he was under pressure.
Yeah, the offensive line, I thought Donovan Smith had a rough day, had a false start, and then Brian Burns is a great player. Like there's a reason that the Panthers would be crazy for trading Brian Burns at the trade deadline. Like, they would be absolutely insane to do that. He's still young enough. He's a great player. But and I thought the offensive line did okay, but it's clearly something. Like, they're giving up some pressure on the interior. While it wasn't as evident today as it was in Pittsburgh, I think that's mostly because Pittsburgh probably has a more talented defensive line than Carolina does. I think that's the big reason for that. But it wasn't the offensive line. It's not like the offensive line was in shambles, but it's just the overall just philosophy on offense. Like, it's everything. It's everything combined with the uncertainness, of the interior, and Donovan Smith maybe not having a great game when he's played really well this year. Plus the Mike Evans drop, and Chris Godwin had a drop, and it was a tough catch, but it was still a drop. Tom Brady had some inaccurate balls. Leonard Fournette can't seem to find a lane on a 3rd and 1. So it's everything right now. And that's why I think when people talk about the offense, and when people continue to talk about this offense, it's going to be tough, because there isn't just one thing that, if you fix that, it'll all be good. Like, there's not one thing. So it's difficult when there's multiple different things, because it's not an easy fix. It's not a quick fix, something that you can just snap your fingers and it all goes away. So that's what I think makes this more frustrating, is that it's not just, fix the left guard and you'll be fine. Like, that's what a lot of people thought for a while, but that's clearly not the case. Clearly something else is up, whether it's philosophy, whether it's the players they have, something else is going on. And this offense right now is just, they've scored 1 touchdown in the last 8 quarters. 9 quarters, I think, of football. It's pitiful right now.
Listen, like you said, it's tough to pinpoint one thing on this Buccaneers offense that has led to what we have seen throughout the first 7 weeks of the season, but the question still remains, like what is it? It can't be a mystery, because at this point you can go back and you can watch the games, and there's a little bit of execution errors here. A lot of it could be looked at coaching. Top to bottom, it's just a bad offensive unit, and that's what it could be chalked up to. But Another thing that I've noticed, and this isn't just on the offense, this is both sides of the ball. I'm not too upset with the defense today. I know we should be upset. I mean, there's no energy, though. That's the thing. There is no type of energy. There is no type of fire on either side of the football. And, yeah, 100%. That's coaching. James, when you look at this team from top to bottom, I know we talked about coaching and we've talked a whole lot about the offense, but you could agree with me, but that, like, there's just – it doesn't feel like there's any sense of spirit out there, as corny as that sounds.
They're coming out flat, man. I mean, and even the defense today, you talked about it. Still, at the end of the day, a 27 carries, 173 yards, and a touchdown for the Carolina Panthers rushing the football today. Inexcusable whenever you have Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard as the running backs of the ball.
They came into this game knowing that. That's the issue. They came into this game knowing that, hey, the Panthers are dealing away some parts. They're not going to have Christian McCaffrey to throw to out of the backfield. They're not going to have Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore had one of his best games in a Panthers uniform today. But, they were missing offensive weapons. They were going to run the ball, and they just did it. They just went out there, and they did it.
And then P.J. Walker, 16 of 22, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. When you look – I talked about it earlier about teams being able to, coaching staffs being able to do more with less. The Panthers are a great example of that. The Buccaneers were outcoached in this game. They were outplayed by a 1-2-win Carolina Panthers football team. And I don't think the defense is necessarily excused either. I understand that they had injuries. Carlton Davis was hurt. Sean Murphy-Bunting was hurt. Zion McCollum was picked on in this game. They didn't necessarily adjust to that. That was a little bit of an issue. The rushing attack was obviously not – the rushing defense, rather, was obviously not good. Again, it goes back to the original thing I've been saying this entire live stream. It's just top to bottom. That this team needs to be evaluated and something needs to change. At this point, I would say by whatever means necessary. You don't have time or you can't have the attitude to say, oh, well, you know what, man, if it doesn't work out this year, shucks, it doesn't work out this year. No. This is arguably Tom Brady's last year. You're on a timer, man. You need to figure this out. Point blank, as simple as that. So everything needs to be evaluated. Everything needs to be questioned and adjusted. And we'll see if this coaching staff is up to task to be able to do that. This is going to be a big, big, big test for Todd Bowles and his staff and what the future is going to look like for them moving forward based on how they respond to this.
How pitiful this Bucs run defense has been in recent weeks. It's not an excuse. Don't get me wrong. I talk about how I don't want to be upset with this Bucs defense, and it's hard to shy away from looking at probably, their least improved unit so far on the defensive side of the ball. Their least improved area, is the run defense. It's just been bad, and the bad has gotten much, much, much worse. But the fact of the matter is, you look at this defense and you look at when they're giving up points. I know Carolina scored first, and that came back to bite them in the ass because they had the touchdown. They dropped it. It didn't happen. Could have been a 7-7 ball game. Carolina had the momentum. That's all she wrote. But for the past 2 weeks, whenever the Bucs find themselves down multiple possessions, everybody's looking around saying, hey, where the hell is our offense and why can't they score any points at all? None. I mean, nothing. We have gotten nothing from the offensive side of the ball for the last 2 weeks, and it is beyond pitiful. So like I said, we can be mad at the defense for the amount of rushing yards that they gave up, but god damn it, if we get a first half touchdown, I mean, this is a one possession game all the way up until, it isn't.
P.J. Walker threw the ball 60 yards last week. 60 yards through the air last week for P.J. Walker.
What did he throw it the week before too?
I think he might have gotten a little bit, but it was late in the game, I think.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, he didn't start that game. So, and then today he was 177, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. This defense hasn't come up with a turnover since Sean Murphy-Bunting's interception against Kansas City. That's 3 straight games now without a turnover for this defense. And this is we kind of unofficially transitioned to the defense, but I don't think there's an excuse for the defense either because Devin White is actually one of the worst players on his defense. He is. He was the reason for that long Deontay Foreman touchdown, not touchdown, but the long run that led up to the touchdown. I mean, he has him in his grasp. Make the freaking tackle. That is inexcusable. And then he wants to talk about, he likes to talk a lot, but he doesn't like to have his play back it up. So, dude, just shut up and go to work. All right. That's what I think you need to do, because right now your play is not backing it up, and you want to go, pumping your chest and smile and stuff after you make a big play. Put your head down and work, because right now you're not it. Like, you're not. You are one of the worst players on the defense right now. He consistently misses tackles, he misses assignments, and he's been brutal. Does he have a lot of potential? Sure. But like right now, it doesn't matter what potential is if the production isn't there. So Devin White, just a huge, huge disappointment after he had a great game versus Dallas in week 1. Just a
NFC Player of the Month. NFC Player of the Month to open the season, and then after that, it just seems like he totally kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna plateau from here on out.
And it seems like he must be riding the coattails of that NFC Player of the Month, because he must be looking at something else and just thinking, oh, I'm good. I don't need to do anything else. No, you need to be better. And they can't. They can't come up with turnovers for at all. They can't come up with pressure with 4 consistently. Shaq Barrett has disappeared. Vita Vea showed up a little bit today. I know he got the sack. But even their blitzes today didn't even get home. It was very. Yes, the defense wasn't awful, stat wise. Like, it wasn't awful. They gave up 21 points. They didn't give up any points in the first half until the very end of the first half. And it looks worse when your offense only puts up 3 points. But this defense still has to be better, and they're tried on 2 things: pressure and takeaways. And right now, they're not getting either of it. So the Ravens are going to come in here, and you want to talk about the run defense. The Ravens are going to come in here and run for 300 yards on them. Like, not actually 300 yards. That's an exaggeration, but it's going to feel like it if they don't correct these things quickly on a short week. So, the defense, they kept the Bucs in the game. Like, sure, they did. They gave the offense plenty of opportunities. And I think if you have to blame one side, it's a team loss. Let's get that out of the way. But if you have to blame one side, you'd blame the offense more than the defense, I think. The offense not scoring a freaking touchdown, that's on the offense. But I think the defense also, they had their chances to try and create energy. Just like you said, I love that point. There is no energy, and that comes back to the coaching. The team takes on the personality of their head coach. What is Todd Bowles' personality? He's
flat.
Fine.
He's flat.
But
he's flat.
Fine, but he's not the fiery type.
And listen,
you have to be Dan Campbell, but you got clearly something's going on in that locker room, right? Because they are taking the personality of their head coach. That's what type of energy this team has right now.
James, before we move on, we talked a lot about the defense and some of the guys on the defense who have talked trash up until this point in the season. Devin White being one of them, having probably his worst game of the season so far today. And then this defense, which just hasn't been able to really, force any takeaways these past couple of weeks, haven't really been able to produce to put your offense in a better situation. How do you feel? Is this a reflection of Todd Bowles and his philosophy for this defense right now? Because, Evan just said it too. This team is a reflection of their head coach right now. And with a lack of energy, it's hard to look anywhere else. But what do you make of this defense and some of the guys who were talking trash earlier this year?
Well, one quote that I've been reminded of, and as soon as he said, I was like, that's a dumb quote, was whenever Devin White had said, oh man, you just get bored out there, whenever you're dominating so much defensively. And it was after the Atlanta Falcons game, I believe. I don't know if that's the exact quote.
It was after the Falcons game. They had a 21-0 lead, and they slowly but surely let them back into that game. And the reason he pinned it on is because, you just kind of get, quote, bored of imposing your will. And that's probably the thing this season that has aged the worst is that quote from Devin White.
Yeah, but you look and, this defense, is the defense that has a lot of nicknames for themselves, and it is what it is. I've never been a big fan of the nickname type of thing. To me, it just kind of comes off as, I don't know, just too much maybe in certain situations. And right now, I'm sure you guys talked about it. The defense is just as flat as the offense now. There have definitely been situations where it's not necessarily the defense's fault, but guys have got to play better. In the case of Devin White, I'm sure you guys have talked about it. He's had a rough stretch here of a couple of games where he hasn't been able to necessarily get the job done. I mean, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. And like you said, some of these guys talk at certain points throughout the season, and then they go out there and they put up disappointing performances. To me, it definitely lends the idea of just look, you've just got to go all the way back and just say, address everything. Just address everything.
Well, moving forward, sorry, go ahead.
It's I mean, and Zion McCollum's in a tough spot. Coming in for Carlton Davis, who was yesterday you got the news that he wasn't going to be playing, and I think McCollum was okay. I mean, yeah, he got burned a few times on the touchdown. I think he got burned, but it's a rookie playing in his real first exposure in the NFL. I'm willing to give him a pass.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. Packers, I think it may be an illegal forward pass. Packers look like they were going to pull that thing off, but they will not. So Washington takes out the Green Bay Packers. Game's not going to end on a flag, so we'll see if this is an illegal forward pass. It could be the end of the game. But, I listen, as we try to hold on to any sort of desperate hope right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers competing for the playoffs and eventually a Super Bowl at the end of this year, the NFC is also in shambles. I mean, the Green Bay Packers are a penalty call away from falling to a 3-4 record. Not saying that people had as high as aspirations for Green Bay as they did Tampa, because the offense just isn't there. But, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess he's trying to bring something here. But we had the live crowd reacting to that. That was a fun last play of that game.
Here's the thing. The Bucks, regardless of if the NFC stinks or not, whatever, the Bucks are staring down the barrel of 3-6. Like, they are staring down the barrel of it because the Ravens on a short week. That's gonna be a tough game. That is going to be a tough football game to win. And then after that, you got the 10 days rest, but you have the Rams who have owned you the last 2 seasons. So they ended your season last year. Like, they have owned you the last few seasons. You are staring down the barrel at 3-6. So while you say, the NFC's weak and stuff, it is. Like, it's very weak. And the Bucks being bad are part of that. But I look at it as it's not going to matter because, like, if the Bucks don't take care of any business, like, it doesn't matter how bad the NFC is, because eventually, the Bucks aren't going to win the NFC South with 4 wins or 3 wins, whatever they may end up with. Like, they're not going to win the NFC South like that. So they're staring down a barrel of a really dark place, and it's concerning. And it's full-blown panic time. We said a few weeks ago that it wasn't panic time in Tampa. Well, now it is. We've reached that.
Here it is. Here it is, folks. I agree. Because, like I said a little bit earlier, the Bucks had every reason to come into this game and kind of silence the doubters, because there were a lot of them. When you're 3-3 with Tom Brady, I know that first 4-game stretch is tough, and a lot of people want to talk about that, but the Bucks came out of that 2-2. Like, that's what it is, and you faced a couple of bad teams since then. You drop a game to Pittsburgh. That's all right. Let it be the outlier on the season. Learn from it. Come back and get better. They came back this week, and they got worse. Like, they literally felt like they got worse, because the Panthers are just a worse team in a worse situation. I know their defense has got some studs, but it does not matter. The Bucks should have got the job done, and they didn't. James, I wanted to get your thoughts on, we look at the games coming up for Tampa Bay. Evan just talked about it a good bit, but you got the Baltimore Ravens on a short week. So less than a week from today, the Bucks are going to be on Thursday Night Football at home playing Lamar Jackson. After that, you got the Rams, and then the week after that, you wake up really early. You're in Germany playing the Seattle Seahawks. So that could be a winnable game, but Geno Smith has also been competent so far for Seattle, so it could not be a winnable game at this point with the Buccaneers dropping games like they have these last 2 weeks. But what do you think about the possibility of this Bucs team being in a 3-5, 3-6 position here with a couple of tough games coming up?
I just did the math, and right now the Buccaneers offense is averaging 17.7 points a game. That's not good enough to beat the Ravens. That's not good enough to defeat the LA Rams. At this rate, it's not good enough to defeat the Seattle Seahawks. By the way, Seattle's another really good example of being able to do a lot with a little regarding good play calling. But
good coaching.
Yeah, but it's another tough stretch right now. Evan had talked about it, where they had to win these 2 games. These were supposed to be, the Buccaneers were supposed to be not 3-4 in this situation. They were supposed to be, 5-2 essentially, going into another tough stretch, or maybe 5-3, something along those lines. And they've blown this situation. It's spiraling now. Like I said earlier, right now, I definitely feel like they're kind of at the rock bottom, and if things don't improve, things could really start to get ugly here. If they, because what do you think, Evan? I know I can't necessarily hear you, but do they have to win these next 3 games in a row here?
If they want any shot if they want any shot to, build any good graces back, yeah. Like, but they're not going to. Like, what evidence do I have that they're going to win all 3 of those games? I don't even know if they're going to win 2 of them. Like, they might beat Seattle. They're better than Seattle, I think. But, like, Seattle's playing better football than them right now. So, like, I don't know. Like, they're not going to beat the Ravens and the Rams. I mean, they're not playing this way. They're not going to beat anybody for the rest of the year. You hope that, talent wins out and you have to, you'll play a little bit better, which, yeah, they'll play better. Like, every week's a different week in the NFL. But, I have no confidence in this team right now. And why should I? Why should I give them the benefit of the doubt? What good standing have they given me to make me feel confident that they're going to win versus the Ravens, they're going to win versus the Rams? Even, I mean, that Seattle game is going to be freaking close now at this point. Like, it's a bad spot they're in right now. And, you lose these next 2 and, and I hate counting them as losses already, but look, it's the facts. They're not likely to win those games. Like, they're not. You lose these next 2, go to 3-6, your season's over. Like, I don't care how bad the NFC South is. The Falcons, the Saints, heck, the freaking Panthers. If the Bucs lose to the Ravens and the Panthers beat the Falcons next week, the Panthers are in sole possession of first place in the NFC South. That is a true stat. So the Panthers could be. I mean, you go to 3-6, you're not winning this division. There's no way you're winning this division. I mean, yeah, you're in first right now with a 3-4 record because the South is brutal. But like right now, the way you're playing, like you might win one more football game if you're going to keep playing like this. And do I think they'll win one more? No, they'll probably win a few more. But like right now, is this a playoff team? No, like this is not a playoff team. And they have to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror because right now this looks like a team that could be going for a top 15 draft pick or even a top 10 draft pick. And then if that's the case, then you have to, I think, just like James said earlier, you have to look at the whole thing in the offseason then. You have to look at Todd Bowles. Is he a one and done? You have this much of a disappointment. It has to be in your mind, I think. Jason Light, how much good grace does he have? You have to look at everything. If this season continues to spiral out of control, like it's really starting to go down a dark hill here. And I hope they get it fixed. Like, we're not rooting for them to, lose every game. Yeah, get the first pick. We're not rooting for that. Obviously, you want the team to win, but right now it's just speaking facts that it's not likely. Like, this team, until they show me otherwise, I'm going to assume they're going to continue to play bad football.
I agree.
You couldn't hear me.
I don't know if you saw my mouth moving, but I was trying to transcribe to him a little bit. So yeah, I guess we can break the illusion, peel back the curtain. So James is the only one who doesn't have piped in audio to Evan, so I've been trying to help him out. We'll play the assist here, but I think we've been rocking so far.
I can say anything I want about James.
You can say anything at all you want about James, and he won't be able to hear it.
Everybody else will, but all right, cool. That's great.
Yeah, good to know. But Tampa Bay right now, just like you said, what evidence are they going to give you that they can turn it around later in the year? I don't know, but listen, if we want to hang on to something as we start to wrap up this show, because to be honest with you, it's going to be a shorter episode today. I don't really know what else from the game we can break down. Maybe a couple of points to be made, but we're going to find out everything we need to throughout the rest of the week.
Jake Camarda bounced back with it.
Hey, Jake Camarda did have a bounce back game today. I thought the special teams unit was improved. There was one touchback at the start of the game that he would have liked to get back. Seemed like if your gunner was there a little sooner, they could have knocked that thing out of the end zone, but you definitely like to see that from your rookie punter. Now you just look for him to get a little more consistent here. But listen, this team isn't 3-5 yet. And every team is different. Every week is different in the NFL. Every year is different. It's a different coaching staff, different players. I mean, there's probably less than 4 players that were on this team in 2016 who are on this team now. But that 2016 team was, 3-5? And then they won 5 in a row to go 8-5. I'm not saying the Bucs are going to do that, because what hope have they given you that they're going to string together a couple of wins here and turn their positive record around? But we have never seen this Bucs team with Tom Brady have to dig themselves out of a hole at this point in the season. They have been close. 2020, they were 7-5. 2021, they had a couple of bad games, especially around the bye week, but they've never had to kick it into high gear and kind of, dig themselves out of a valley the way that they're going to have to do the rest of the season now. And I hate to say that I still think they can do it, because I know you said it yourself. Until they show you otherwise, I don't think they can. But I don't know, dude. It's just it's Tom Brady. It's always a different conversation when it comes to Tom Brady, even when he's sitting at 3-4.
Yeah, well, it's gut check time now. It's crazy that we're even talking about this because you thought after losing to a terrible Pittsburgh team that it would be gut check time then. But it is truly gut check time. It is time for players to look in the mirror. How do they want to be remembered? How does Todd Bowles want to be remembered? How does Tom Brady want to be remembered? Looking at Tom Brady's career, nobody's going to say this is his final year. Nobody's going to say, oh, well, he had a great career.
He's not the greatest anymore because of this year.
His that's not thing. But is this really how Tom Brady wants to go out? Obviously no, but he has to look in the mirror, because he has to be better. It's not just we talk about everybody else, but he has to be better as well. He's included in that. He has to look in the mirror. Do you really want your last year in the NFL? Is this how you want it to end? So I think the entire team on a short week, it's not going to be easy, but you got to find a way to look in the mirror and keep chugging along and just try your best to work yourself out of this hole. But it is going to be just incredibly difficult. And I think the most frustrating thing, you've done this to yourself. It's not anything that an opponent has done to you. You have done this to yourself because you are talented, way more talented than both the Steelers and the Panthers, and you lost both games and weren't really competitive in either game. The Steelers game, obviously, the final score was closer, but that wasn't very close. We all know the vibe of that game. You've done it to yourself. And I think that's the most frustrating thing. And I think that's what is most concerning is that it's not anything an opponent's doing an opponent, they're playing out of their minds. No, it's the Bucs beating themselves, not necessarily with flags or dumb plays, just bad plays, just bad football. And I think that's the most concerning thing.
Our buddy Shaving with Peg Leg with I wish it was better context when you're talking. Shaving with Peg Leg, not only that, but a great quote here. You can't dig yourself out of a hole when your head coach doesn't know how to use a shovel. So obviously taking some shots at Todd Bowles there, but kind of accurate description of where this Bucs team is and where they're yet to be is going to be determined by this coaching staff and how ready they're going to be on Thursday night, short week against the Baltimore Ravens. James, you were checking out the post-game press conferences. Any juicy bits or quotes from Tom Brady or anybody else on this coaching staff?
Well, Todd Bowles did say after the game, this is per Pewter Report and Greg Allman, that they're not going to be making any coaching changes, but they are going to try and change what they're doing as a coaching staff. And on offense, it's just a situation of not executing both as players and as coaches, and that's something that they're going to change there. So seems like a pretty typical answer from Todd Bowles there. And he said that, they're just going to have to keep on digging, and also that is going to be kind of an evaluation time to see who's going to step up and who isn't going to.
We just brought up the comparison with the shovel. Todd Bowles not knowing how to use the shovel, but he said it himself. They're going to keep digging. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they don't dig themselves deeper into the hole that they already have at 3-4. Just not ideal for this Bucs team whatsoever. Today was supposed to be a lot more fun than it was. And obviously I want to give a huge shout out to all of our friends here at Berry House Beer Company for having us out for the second year in a row for the Can Fire Watch Party. We'll be back November 27th for Bucs versus Cleveland. And I'm going to be honest with you. I said it at the top of the podcast. I'll say it again now. If we go 0-3 on watch parties in 2 years, then I don't know if we're going to do this anymore. I think we might have to find. I think we might have to find another way to connect with our Tampa fan base.
Well, I'll have to start hosting them because
you're not.
I'm 1-0.
We all know you're not hosting nothing. You talk about I think Todd Bowles maybe took he heard Gravediggers too much, and he's taken it a little bit too seriously. So.
Bored with the idea of me hosting watch parties. That's what I could tell from his reaction.
Yeah. Just doubt that you can. That's all.
Listen, as we start to wrap things up here, I want to get everybody's final thoughts before we wrap up. We'll be back later on this week. It's our weekly show with former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Sean King. We'll get his thoughts on this Week 7 matchup. And, of course, maybe we'll do an unofficial game preview for that Thursday night game. I mean, realistically, only a couple of days away here. Hopefully the Bucs are ready, man. But, Evan, let me get your closing thoughts here as we wrap up today's show live from Berry House.
Yeah, just obviously, I think this is, like I said earlier, this is the worst loss that I've seen from a Bucks team. Obviously, there's been worse Bucks teams, but in terms of the talent they have, the situation they're in, the opponent they're playing, and how they actually play, this is the worst Bucks loss I think I've seen ever, which is saying something because you have seen some stuff. But it's a dark place right now, and I just don't know how they're going to get out of it. So I hope they do, and I hope for Bucks fans' sake, I hope that they're able to string together a nice little run here, and it would be a great story, right? Like the thing, like during the middle of the season, oh my God, they lost these 2 games, but they bounced back. But at this point, it doesn't look promising.
It doesn't look promising for our record predictions. I mean, I had them at 12-5, and they're one loss away from that. So I don't know if they're going to run the table and go 11-1 with the games that they've got left. And you've got them 11-6, which even coming into the year, people were ripping your head off for picking them at 11-6. And now I guess people would be jumping for joy if we told them they would finish the year 11-6, wrap up these final games, go, what would that be? 8-2, I think, over the last 10 games. 10 games left after this.
Yeah. And it's going to be an interesting 10 games. It'll be an interesting 10 games for sure.
James, I wanted to get your final thoughts as we wrap up the program. 21-3, Bucks fall 2-3-4. How are they going to dig themselves out of the hole starting on Thursday night against the Baltimore Ravens?
You've got to take a look at the entirety of this team, top to bottom, and it sounds like they are going to at least try and do that. We'll see how successful that is. You've got to take a look at everything, the coaching staff first and foremost, and then work your way down. And we'll see how successful that is. We'll see if they make any moves. The trade deadline's coming up as well. There's always been those rumors of them trying to sign maybe a guy like Odell Beckham or something along those lines. We'll see what they end up doing. If they make some big-time move, Evan's face kind of looks like, why would Odell Beckham want to come here right now? That's a pretty legitimate question to ask right now. So, I mean, we'll see if they make any big move to try and give this team a jolt. But right now, I think first and foremost, you've got to analyze everything and try something different, starting with the coaching staff, then moving your way down to the players. You don't have a lot of time to do it before your next game, but something's got to change here. Otherwise, things are just going to continue to spiral out of control, and right now they're at the bottom of the pit.
Yeah, we had mentioned it, James, I think it was on your live stream, if not the top of this podcast, but everybody talks about the pieces they could potentially bring in with the trade deadline coming up, and then the absence of Rob Gronkowski, who you have certainly felt in the red zone. I mean, how are you going to lure Rob Gronkowski back out of retirement? This guy is partying whenever the hell he wants. He goes to bed as late as he wants, doesn't have to work out anymore. And you're going to bring him back to a team that's 3-4, potentially 3-5. You're going to say, hey, I know things are all dandy over there in retirement land, but Tommy's in some trouble and he needs you to help bust some ass to get this team where they should be. It's not his responsibility, and at this point, he's not going to want to come back. I think people are going to have to realize that. But anything could happen any given Sunday in the NFL, so it could make for a great story one day. This could be the beginning of the end for the 2022 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this week's post-game edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. Shout out once more for the final time today to our friends at Berry House Beer Company, hooking it up all day long. They covered the tab for me and James, and we truly do appreciate you. This right here is the last little bit of their Tampa exports, 5.9% alcohol percentage, and it's crisp. It's good. I mean, if you like Golden, I think Berry House has the best selection of lagers you can find here in Ybor City. Nothing's like overly bitter. Even if you don't like dark beers, they have a Dunkel. And it's not bitter. Like, it's a dark, thick, foamy beer, and it's not bitter. I don't know where else you can find anything like that. But thank you again to Berry House Beer Company. Also, shout out to our friends over at Jimmy's Tacos today in Ybor City, hooking it up with the food delivery. 25% off your order if you mention the Cannon Fire Watch Party. They were hooking it up for everybody today. Saw 3 or 4 delivery guys come through. I got the burrito tacos. I believe you got the quesadilla, James, and you said it was awesome.
Yeah, I got the quesadilla and the chips and queso. That was the highlight of my day so far. I also had some orange juice, which was pretty good. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll wrap this thing up.
James sounds like he just lost his goldfish.
James is trying really hard to not let his internal feelings win right now. But when you feel the way that you do after the Bucks play the way that they did, it's hard for me to blame him, you know?
I don't blame him.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out right here on YouTube.com live after Week 7. The Bucs are 3-4 with a short week. We'll see if they can bounce back. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram, Bucs_Daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, Rhettakus. If you follow me, I will follow you back. Also, forgot to mention, you can check out Evan's written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got this week?
I'll have the and James's. I'll have the it was my turn to plug my stuff. I'm not sure why he's trying to steal my thunder, but I'll have the staff predictions review, which yet again on the spoiler, just like last week, they will be all wrong. So especially mine, because I predicted Chris Godwin would get a touchdown, and guess what? The Buccaneers as an offense didn't even score a touchdown. So great work by me.
Thanks again to James for being here. Mr. Bucs Nation hanging out with us at the Cannon Fire Watch Party. Even though it wasn't a successful day for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was successful for us. We got to meet up with a lot of people. Shout out to Mikey Kelly and anyone else who came out. We truly do appreciate you guys saying what's up. We'll see you at the next one. November 27th, Tampa Bay versus Cleveland. In the meantime, we'll talk to you guys later on this week with former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Sean King. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish and James Hill. We'll talk to you then. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching, and go Bucs.